Hey guys, welcome back to another video for Blue Period. It's so inconsistent, it's getting confusing, it's bumping into 86 now, so there's 2 videos out tonight, but we're still going strong, even though the episodes are coming out like crazy. It seems to be every 5 days or so the anime gives us an episode, and I'm just not aware of when it comes out. But hello and welcome back to Clockwork News. Thank you for tuning in. There is something cool coming your way, so make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss it. I am going to give you my Halloween special where I am unboxing the Tokyo treat box. This will allow me to converse with you guys, talk about food because I love food, and also keep it themed because there's some anime stuff in there, because Demon Slayer is on one of the treats. I'm not going to tell you what one it is because I at least know that one. That's going to be fun. That'll be our Halloween special, something a little bit spoopy. I might put some cosplay on, maybe, depends how I feel. There's also a Discord channel too for you guys to get notified whenever videos drop on the channel. That will also keep you tuned for when I drop my midway review. This will be a video for my top 3 OPs, EDs, and my ranking of anime. What are my current top 3 midway through the season? This will change. This will make some interesting comparisons to my overall review at the end of the season, just to see how things have changed. And things are already changing. It's very, very interesting this season. A lot of first episodes dropped, I was up in the 8s, and now some titles are dropping. It's going to be very interesting to see where my ranking ends up in a few weeks' time, and then by the end overall. Let's get going. Let's have another shake-up. We're going to switch our class up once more. I like the fact they keep changing up their students because I think it allows them to experience more art in the long run. So you see new people, new styles, you get to see new methods and how people are working. And this will, again, hopefully open up your experience to art and allow you to pick up some cool, nifty tricks as well. But our exams are coming up really, really quick. And the anime is going really quickly. I don't know how many episodes there are. My anime list is still saying question mark. So if you do know how many episodes are going to be released, let me know, because it feels like it's 24. I don't know why I've got the feeling it's 24, because they keep releasing an episode every 5 days. Maybe it is 24 because we're going to try and get it all done in one season for some reason. So we'll find out. If you do know, let me know in the comments below. We have all of our main characters back together again in the class, minus Takahashi, who left school, and minus Yuka, but we'll talk about Yuka a little bit later on. These are characters who have all got their own distinctive art style. I feel like there is a lot of logic behind the way the groups are organised, and of course Oba is our instructor. Definitely feels like there's a lot of logic going on that the students don't understand, but you can kind of see some of the threads to why certain students are getting put together. So today's main theme, or one of the big themes, is the idea of adaptability, being able to adapt. A lot of abstract themes come up this week. There's a lot of abstract themes. We're told that the university also likes the idea of abstract themes, which I think keeps it wide. It keeps it really wide for creativity. You're not limiting the scope here. You're allowing students to go wild with it. If it's abstract, you can go crazy. What is important to Yaguchi? And to him, it's always been the people around him, the people that have helped him get to where he is at this point. Because of the breakneck speed, I think one of the downsides right now is some of the relationships that he ends up thinking about haven't really got the same impact to me as I imagine if you were reading it in the manga, they would have. The art class or the club that we see, and he thinks about them briefly, we've barely seen them. To me, it doesn't feel like it had the same impact. We have our first string and the idea of connection and bonds. So bonds is something that he figures is something that's been running through his work, or something that really means a lot to him. And a piece ends up looking very much Red String of Fate, with the red string in the middle created by all the bonds. There's always a very special bond at the heart or the core, something that runs through the centre. However, the piece is cited as not being adaptive enough and it needs more expression. I could have imagined this piece being really wild with even real string in the center, using real string and paint, getting really crazy up with that kind of idea of expression. But I think the piece is nice. The red really stands out, the color really stands out, but I feel like he's going to get wild. I feel like we're building Yaguchi up to get wild. The abstract rabbit hutch has begun, and I wanted to keep that title somewhat abstract. We get more and more vague titles as we go, and I think the purpose here is to push creativity, to start pushing them to their limits. I love the composition at one point where we have Yaguchi looking down into his book. He's looking downwards, always facing down. But I do wonder, is he eventually going to start looking up, looking forward, looking towards instead of looking back? that would be interesting to see if that ends up being a directional shift that we see. But he ends up creating at this point a very sad piece, the idea of isolation. I feel like it's a state of his mind. We see the blue colour come back up again. And blue is always that negative colour that is often used with artists and blue periods, the idea of feeling down and feeling emotionless or disconnected or just cold. And I love this use, and it's a very nice piece, but it almost feels a bit simple, a bit on the nose. But it feels like Yaguchi has lost his way again. We do finally get to go back a little bit to see my favourite art tutor, the one who kind of kicked it all off, the one I really did praise. And it's a nice, gentle nudge. And I love the fact that it's just a nudge where she's trying to tell him art isn't just about skill. And initially, he does turn down the go big idea. Just go crazy, get a big piece and go crazy, which ends up being the best piece he's done to date. But he initially does turn it down. Then this is when we first get our hint that something isn't right with Yuka, and Yuka is in a very bad place. I think there's some hints that some of the girls are reacting to something online, something big, and I do wonder if this is linked. I can imagine it probably is, and Yuka vanishes out the class and we don't see them again for a little bit, and it kind of goes downhill more and more for Yuka. We only have a month left, and it really does feel like Yaguchi might even be hitting burnout because he can't lift his arm. It's harder for him to draw. It feels like he's struggling to do it, and art should be a free-flowing piece. It feels like he might even be reaching burnout with the amount of pieces he's having to churn out. He's not happy. He's also not happy with the result. I don't think we even get to see the piece that ends up coming out of this one. When he ends up being bumped into, he ends up having that reality gain by looking at someone else's work, looking up from the canvas, the idea of looking up somewhere else, that everyone else's work, the work that he really likes, has this power of sucking you in. The pieces that have really hit him have always had the ability to just draw him right in. He's lacking the same effect. His own artwork isn't able to do the same thing. Well, we see the vampire Yaguchi reappear, and now I'm starting to think the idea that the more animalistic elements start to rise up and he starts to get more wild. I feel like this is done on purpose. It's trying to show you that this is the more wild side of him, wanting to break free, be a bit more animalistic, be a bit more rogue. But it is official. He has hit a low point. It gets to an even lower point at the end of the episode, but he hits a low point before hitting the bottom as well, where it's time to go big. And I love the fact that he decides, this is it, I'm gonna go big. Art is the language without words. So we've got to go back to the start, go back to the idea of what kicked it off in the first place and the idea of going back to bonds. Let's have another peek at Yuka, and there's something very wrong. I don't quite know what's going on, but something's definitely happened, and the result is Yuka's given up. Yuka's stopped going to the classes, and we get a peek into their family life, and it's not great, but then there's also that shining light with the grandma. I don't know what happened, and I'm sure we're going to find out, but something has made Yuka give up, and they are willing to get a job and just leave art completely. And you can see the dad getting more and more frustrated because that's not the point, or it's not all about the money, and something happened and then he gets angry. But grandma is the light in this one, because grandma refers to them as Yuka-chan, and it feels like that's more accepting of Yuka than the dad was, because the dad was using the first name as Ryuji as opposed to Yuka, which seems to be the name that they chose. Brief interlude and a point that there's something dark going on at the same time as Yaguchi having his breakdown going low. All of our characters seem to be hitting a low point at the same time. Everyone seems to be going through a blue period. I do like the fact that Yaguchi knew Yuka was down without really looking, without even being able to look at them. He knew. And I feel like that's really, really special. Everyone's down. We need to go back to where it all began. Let's go and see Mori, the artist who kicked it all off. How has the artwork evolved? We haven't seen her for a while. What has the artwork turned into? Well, it really has evolved. It's really stylized, but it's still got the same thread running throughout all of the pieces. All the pieces are connected. This might be a completely different picture from Angels, but it's the same theory. It's the idea of praying. All of her art is literally a prayer. The piece is very, very different. We still see the same vein. It's in the same vein of work that she's always produced. This is great. This is what he needed. This is a nice bump in the right direction as he visits the artist who initially set him in motion. And then that's when we get our amazing creation sequence. The let's go and make some art with him. And the thread that runs through his work at this point is the idea of bonds, but bonds being something very different. Bonds not being how he metaphysical or fate. He sees them as something solid, something actually concrete in a sense, and it's metal this time around. We have a fantastic energetic painting sequence which is electric and sparks are literally flying as Yaguchi is on fire, creating probably the most rawest emotion piece that he has ever created. I love the piece that he creates at the end because it's simple at its core. It's a round circle. It's that idea that I think breaks down into something small. It's composition, but it's very bright. It's the color. White is one of the biggest colors that will draw you in. If there's a white patch in a picture, it draws you in. So if you are told that you're doing photography and let's say you want to focus on the person in front, if you have a white background or if you've got like dappled white bits, you won't have the same impact on looking at that person in the center if you had a dark background. The whiter image, the whiter object stands out more against the dark background. So him using the opposite of this, having a bright core, this molten hot core, it draws you right in. It is the center of his piece. His core is the bonds. The bonds are there. They've all melted together. His center is his bonds. And with them all melting down, with all these people who have become and created this mess at the end, that is the core. The bonds have all melted to something. It really feels like the darkness around it is perhaps his life before, or the way that he ends up being lost within himself, that the only thing that is bright in his life is the bonds or the molten metal in the middle. I love the parallel lines as well. I think they are fantastic. They really lead your focus. They are leading lines. They lead your eyes right back to the center. So you start drifting, you are put back right back to the center. It is a dark piece. I feel like it's a very dark piece for him because there's no blue, there's no light colors. It's dark. There's a lot of dark colors in there, but it's beautiful. It's fantastic. Bonds coming in many different forms. And Yaguchi really has grown. He's now on a high point before he really drops to rock bottom, which is sad, but it's a gorgeous piece. If he had perhaps entered that into the exam, he might have had a really nice chance, but sadly he ends up falling again and he ends up going back. I still love the teacher overall. The teacher has been such a great support. She's a motherly figure. She sees Yaguchi growing and she's so proud of the way he has grown. She is such a supportive character. But Yaguchi sadly hits rock bottom fully when he starts getting more and more praise, and I feel like maybe this leads him to be complacent and he ends up just trying to rehash. He gets comfortable. He ends up rehashing something that he knows is good because you've been told this piece is good. He can't actually remember what mind state or how he achieved the piece in the first place, and he ends up creating a piece that comes last, a piece that actually sits last because he's just rehashing his own work. He's not creating art anymore. He's now imitating his own work. And this sadly hits us at a very bad low because we see him smoking, and he's not even smoking socially now. He's physically smoking because he's stressed. He's at rock bottom. He's hearing his own mother on the phone kind of going, well, I don't know if it's good or not. It really hits him hard, and we get the return of the blue colours, feeling isolated, feeling really down, and you feel bad for him. You really feel bad for him. He's just lost his way. He really has lost his way, to suddenly get a call out of the blue from Takahashi, the guy who really didn't like him and ended up leaving school. Yaguchi is taking art, and that annoyed him. Why is he calling him? That is our cliffhanger for this week. Another really good episode. I love the art piece, but I can see what you guys mean by it just feels fast because we are now pretty much dawn of exams. We're getting towards the exams themselves. And if there's 12 episodes, we are about 8 episodes to go. But then if there's 24 episodes, something big could happen, like he fails and he has to reattempt. It's just going to be very interesting to see what happens, and I still want to know if the blue period aspect is just because he's in a slump, because he really does feel like he's in a slump, or that's going to be the thread that he goes back to using blue or something, or blue is going to be a strong colour for him. It's going to be interesting to see if that has any meaning, or the title has any meaning, or hints at what he's actually going to create. I can't wait to see the piece he creates. And then if he is successful in getting into university, it's going to be good to see how things resolve. And I want to know what's going on with Yuka and how that's going to resolve, because they seem to have turned their back on art, which is really, really sad. And something's clearly happened there. But I do like the fact that Yaguchi is able to put a smile on their face, which is really, really nice. So I hope you guys are having a good week, enjoying your weekend as well. Make sure you're taking care of yourselves because you deserve it. Have a good day, guys. Bye-bye.